The scene shifts to the family's new home, where everyone seems wonderfully laid back, soaking in the sunshine and enjoying an easy picnic. Mom sits under a tree, contacting the relatives back on Earth. She notes with relief that everyone is finally packed and already on their way. She tells herself that once they arrive, she won't have to sit around every day feeling so bored anymore. Lu Qing, meanwhile, cheers on her dad, urging him to hang in there just a bit longer, since becoming a 7th-level grandmaster feels right around the corner. Her dad, however, remarks that in his younger days, even a simple dream of reaching grandmaster would have sounded ridiculous. Time moves on. Over by the construction site, Snowy directs the engineering work while thousands of robots assemble the family's new living facilities and other infrastructure. Everything runs so smoothly that a whole town's outline begins to take shape. The four of them keep busy in their own ways, and for a while everything feels peaceful and almost idyllic. But just then, the sky stirs. Clouds roll in from every direction. Countless streaks of shimmering light descend toward the family like a giant funnel. Lu Qing assumes her big brother must have had another breakthrough. Soon, energy starts flooding toward them, and to their surprise, the energy can actually be absorbed. That's when something rustles in the forest nearby. A caveman hides behind a tree, secretly watching the family. The moment he sees the phenomenon, he freezes, breaks into a cold sweat, and bolts back into the forest in a panic. The scene then shifts to Lu Sheng. As expected, the strange phenomenon outside is caused by him. He opens his eyes and guesses it might be related to his newfound cultivation aptitude. Still, he can't tell whether his talent is good or not. He waves a hand, and several small spheres float into view. According to Qian Yushu's memory, spiritual roots come in 9 grades, with each grade containing multiple tiers that determine the person's cultivation speed. He reflects that Qian Yushu possessed a 2nd-grade aptitude, and that was enough to trigger a phenomenon at birth. Lu Sheng, however, notes that his ability to absorb the universe's energy far surpasses even that, at least hundreds of times. Nevertheless, the manual itself has already given him a massive surprise, and he admits that with this sort of energy intake, no martial technique could ever compare. Even if he couldn't merge the two systems perfectly, training it on the side would eventually push him into the 11th level without any struggle. As he continues absorbing energy, he suddenly notices something new. Now that he has awakened his spiritual root, his immortal cells begin absorbing the energy that has been refined through the manual's method. In just a blink, a white sphere the size of an egg condenses inside him, but it keeps expanding, soon reaching the size of a watermelon. By this point, he's not even sure whether this thing is going to burst his abdomen open. Luckily, the sphere itself causes no harm, but it just keeps growing. 1 meter, 2 meters, then hundreds, seemingly without limit. For some reason, no matter how large it becomes, his body accommodates it effortlessly. He begins to suspect it might be what the cultivator calls the golden core, although, honestly, something feels off. According to Qian Yushu's memory, a normal cultivator's core is only egg-sized, or at most the size of a fist. No one has ever heard of a golden core expanding into something this enormous. He thinks it's all a bit strange, especially since a core usually enters its next stage only after gathering enough energy. Now he can't tell whether the issue lies in the manual or inside himself, but his thoughts are abruptly interrupted by the ever-growing sphere inside him. Energy keeps pouring into his body without pause, and at this rate, he notes that if he ever spat his golden core out, he might accidentally cough up an entire planet-sized sphere. He remarks that even Qian Yushu had tried cultivating both systems, yet never produced an effect even remotely close to this. In fact, that guy seemed almost disappointingly ordinary, so our boy wonders what the real reason behind this difference might be. Nevertheless, he takes a deep breath and braces himself. Perhaps he thinks there are others out there attempting the same fusion of two systems. He tells himself he can't believe he's the only one walking this path, and sooner or later he's bound to meet others just like him, and when that day comes, they can compare notes. After all, he believes progress is born from exchange. Within the dream realm, Lu Sheng notices his origin power surging dramatically. He suspects the fall of the cultivation universe may have scattered their origin power, which eventually attached itself to all sorts of inheritance, with the manual being just one example of that. If that theory holds true, then everyone who practices those methods receives a tiny shard of that origin power. In that moment, he decides to explore further. Meanwhile, we return to Yamu sector. The grand competition has just concluded. The noise and glory had eventually faded away, leaving the place functioning as a tourist attraction where visitors from other star sectors stroll through every day. Among them stand 2 individuals carrying very different intentions. Suddenly, a green stone in one man's hand glows. He immediately states that the young master's aura vanishes precisely here. Both men turn toward the arena, quietly surveying the surroundings. The 12th brother comments that the soul flame has gone out. The divine sense has broken, confirming the servant's early words. They fall into a faint sadness. One of them reflects that in the master's past life, he had countless heirs, but after reincarnation, barely 1 in 100 survived, making everyone who survived so much more precious. Because of that, he does not doubt that the young master meant hundreds of times more to their master now than ever before. And yet, they note bitterly, the moment they received the news, the young master was already gone. The man clenches his fists, his expression tightening with killing intent, fully aware he has no way to explain any of this. The servant doesn't look much better, until a cheerful voice behind them suddenly asks if they've come as tourists. A man waves a little flag enthusiastically and explains that his tour group is running a promotion. 3 days exploring the entire Yamu core areas, reliving the championship matches, complete with an attractive tour guide. The irritated 12th brother tries to wave him off, but the guide refuses to back down and further advertises that the package includes a full holographic recording of the finals and even a signed photo of the champion. When one of them spots his younger brother's picture on the brochure, his brows lift in surprise, only for his eyes to shift toward Lu Sheng's a second later. The two fall silent, then their expressions darken, and they immediately request a copy of the recording and the posters. However, the guide sternly refuses, telling them that none of those items can be purchased separately. They must join the tour. But in the end, money always talks. He catches sight of the black gold VIP card and decides to change his mind. Afterward, the servant asks why the man bought the material, asking if he thought the young master's death was related to this tournament. The man glares at Lu Sheng's poster, and his instincts tell him there's no doubt. Lu Sheng is involved. Soon, the pair sits down and watches the competition footage. And compared to Qian Yushu's death, what shocks them the most is Lu Sheng himself. A mere 10th level displaying such terrifying strength was beyond anything they ever imagined, especially seeing how he was able to so effortlessly defeat Qian Yushu, who's basically 13th level in this universe. The man remarks it's not uncommon to see such prodigies in the vast universe, and they've seen outrageous talents before. Still, now that they've identified the killer, he tells himself their mission here is essentially complete. The man eventually decides it's best to report the situation first and see how the master chooses to deal with it. The scene shifts back to Lu Sheng. The system continues its simulation until it finally reaches 100%. He opens his eyes and calmly announces success. As he expected, simulating a simple spirit-nurturing technique doesn't require much origin power. He notes that the first level of the technique alone grants 10 extra years of lifespan, the second level 30, and with 9 levels total, full mastery could extend life by more than 5,000 years. That's already far longer than the lifespan of most 11th level martial artists. Furthermore, even if the later levels become difficult, reaching the 6th or 7th level would easily add several hundred, maybe even 1,000. All of this was, of course, for his parents. And compared to martial arts, this cultivation method is unbelievably simple. Now all that remains is to name it. After thinking for a moment, he decides to call it Live Forever No Matter What, because regardless of anything else, his family must always come first. Meanwhile, the even bigger news is that Lu Sheng has finally broken through. Feeling the energy circulating through him, he realizes he has stepped into the 11th level. Inside his body, countless immortal cells shimmer like a sky full of stars, each one a seed of a newborn sun. With so many new stars forming, he estimates he might be ready to attempt the next transformation of the immortal stellar body. He reflects that a real star undergoes infancy, youth, adulthood, and then marches into old age, at which point it releases all its accumulated heat and light without holding back. By then, it's more commonly known as the red giant state. If Lu Sheng ever enters that state, his power would skyrocket to terrifying heights. He doesn't know the exact multiplier, but even a conservative guess puts it at 1,000 times, maybe 10,000 times, stronger than during the tournament. But in order to think that far ahead, he needs to confirm whether his current body can even withstand such power. He lifts his shirt, glances at his chiseled abs, and remarks that his stellar path originally comes from Wang He. Since Wang He had reached 15th level, Lu Sheng assumes he should at least reach the same level if he just follows the basic roadmap. But the problem is that he doesn't want to merely follow it. The fact that he already possesses 330,000 immortal cells now, which is far more than Wang He had at 12th level, makes our boy confident enough to say he's much stronger than Wang He. Not to mention the strength of each individual cell is incomparable. That's why our guy was able to defeat people higher leveled than him. Turning serious, he acknowledges the real danger. If he enters the red giant state and his body isn't strong enough to withstand the explosion of force, he might burst like a balloon filled with molten magma. With that being said, in front of him lie 2 solutions. First, he could consciously limit the growth of his immortal cells. During his next breakthrough, he wouldn't have to pursue the theoretically perfect state. For example, when moving into 12th level, The ultimate form of the immortal stellar body can theoretically endure 5 million immortal cells, but attempting that could be fatal. So he could choose to break through early, at 1 million cells instead. However, he remarks that this solution is essentially cutting off his own foundation. Unless absolutely necessary, he refuses to take that path. The second solution is to seek another route, one that strengthens the body itself until it can endure the maximum number of immortal cells and safely enter the red giant state. Even though our guy's martial body is already immensely powerful, he understands all too well that in this world there is no such thing as the strongest, only something stronger. Perhaps the fusion of the immortal and martial paths is exactly the method he needs. He can clearly feel the immortal power nourishing his body, slowly elevating his immortal stellar body. While thinking all this, he believed this gives the immortal and immortal stellar body a very different meaning. Unfortunately, the path is difficult, and the origin power cost is absurd, pretty much a trip down the rabbit hole. Still, he tells himself, at least it's a direction, and he just has to take it step by step. As he reflects on all of this, he notices his golden core is still expanding. A rough estimate puts its diameter at several hundred kilometers now. He still can't understand since he's following the manual exactly, so why is his situation so different from everyone else's? Originally, he even considered shattering the core to feed his immortal cells and strengthen his body, but just as he prepares to try, his instincts warn him that this would be a catastrophic mistake. So for now, he decides all he can do is watch and see how enormous this thing plans to grow. Leaving the dream realm, Lu Qing comes running toward him with obvious excitement. Our boy glances around and notes that although only half a month has passed, the breakthrough has reshaped the entire planetary environment. The surge of energy had directly altered the ecosystem. Trees and plants show the most dramatic changes. Some vegetation now towers over 30,000 meters, and even certain mammals have grown beyond 50 meters. The whole planet just feels a little too wild. Meanwhile, he notices his little sister has grown slightly taller, and his dad is already brushing against Grandmaster level. Dad, meanwhile feeling a bit embarrassed, tells them he's just been practicing blindly and somehow ended up here. Inside, though, the old man can't help feeling proud. After a lifetime of working hard labor, becoming a Grandmaster feels like something he absolutely must brag about once his old buddies arrive. But Lu Qing, now a Grandmaster herself, is not satisfied. She complains that her big brother hasn't praised her at all. Lu Sheng helplessly pinches her cheek and tells her that, with conditions other people could only dream of, reaching only the 7th level is nothing to brag about. She puffs up, and he ruffles her hair, telling her to keep working hard. He also mentions he'll be teaching their parents a new cultivation technique soon, and she'll be responsible for supervising them. If she does well, he promises her a personal spaceship. That immediately brightens her mood. After all, daily cultivation is boring, and with such a vast universe above them, she's been itching to travel. Lu Sheng then asks about Mom and Snowy. Lu Qing answers that they went to the neighboring planet, and Snowy is accompanying their mother to visit their aunt's family. He does some quick calculations. There are 4 years and 3 months left before the coming crisis. The time is simply too tight, so he must seek out opportunities for further breakthroughs. Something deep inside him tells him that the outer space battlefield is where he'll find what he needs. So, anyway, with all the filler episodes out of the way, our boy sets his next destination, the outer space battlefield.